I basically quit my job and just started from scratch. And the way that I thought of it was like, there's nowhere to go but up.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we will be discussing the struggles and lessons learned along the journey of a seven-figure entrepreneur. It's my great pleasure to welcome our guest today, Sean Chaudhary with Alchemy Leads. Sean, welcome to the call.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to learn a little bit more about you and about your company. And without further ado, let's go ahead and just dive right in. So, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, please share with us your story. Where did your entrepreneur journey begin? Where have you gotten to? Maybe share a few key lessons learned along the way, but ultimately, we just want to hear your journey.
Awesome. Yeah. So we started back in 2017. I've been in the marketing space since 2009. So working in agencies, and I always saw in big agencies that I worked in some inefficiencies and some ways that they could improve. One specifically being, client pays you X. Some agencies, they can only spend a third of that on the client to, be profitable, stuff like that. And then being overly sales focused and not fulfillment focused enough. And so I saw some of those things early on in the 2010s, and 2017 is when I basically took the jump, took the leap of faith and said, hey, I can do this on my own. It was a challenge. Actually, Alchemy Leads, the name of Alchemy Leads, is at that time, I basically quit my job and just started from scratch. And the way that I thought of it was like, there's nowhere to go but up. Like
There
rock
you go.
bottom is actually a good thing because you're looking in one direction. And
Yep.
that's the name of Alchemy is basically that. Alchemy Leads. It's basically, it's a play on lead to gold, but it's also a play on just turning nothing into something or a negative into a positive. And so that was back in 2017. I was at that time kind of the one man shop, accounting, doing everything, doing the work, doing the sales, doing everything, even the paperwork, which I hated. And since then, we've grown to become, I would say, more of a viable company. We're about seven figures this year in 2024. So took us about 7 years to get to, where you were dreaming of when you started.
Right.
And then everything changes. Then you realize like your dreams kind of change and shift. You're like, oh, this isn't as big as I thought it would be when I was dreaming about it. And you have to adjust the sales. And so it's been a fun journey. I think I'm leveling up now in terms of being less of a startup, small business into more of a corporation, trying to get some of those things like, EOS, being more of an executive than, a startup founder. And so that's a challenge, more working with team and such. But the journey's been awesome to get here. We, I think we have a different philosophy than other agencies, which is like we're really, really client focused. A lot of people can say that, but we have essentially a cap on how many clients we can take. And our
Okay.
retention rate on a yearly basis, not a month to month basis, but a yearly basis is in the 90s.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
something like 19 out of 20 clients that come with us will stay more than 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And obviously, we were selective. So it's like, baseball, you only swing on pitches that look good.
There you go.
So that's definitely there. We don't try to sell everything or everyone. If it's not a good fit, we turn people away. Um, but yeah, being selective and just having a different philosophy, a different approach where we're really client centric. We basically reinvest anything that's needed on a client. We don't really care too much about contracts or, if a client wants something extra, we don't send them big invoices. That's kind of a barrier to entry for folks. So I think we're starting to find our momentum.
Awesome. Very cool. And I hope everybody listening paid attention to some of the few key things that you pointed out there. as as a business owner, sometimes it's difficult to make that transition that you said that you're doing, going from being the owner to more of an executive, trying to navigate those waters of saying, okay, I need to stop getting sucked down into the business, and then you start working on the business. And what does that look like, and what does that feel like? Yeah, no, that's awesome. And another thing is, too often small business owners, they get stuck in this trap of thinking, you know what, I can't turn away business. I've got to say yes to everybody that's coming my direction. And I love your intentionality around saying no. We know what our ideal client is, and that's who we're going to say yes to, and everybody else we're going to say an intentional no thanks. It's not going to work out, and so we're going to just stop it now because we want to provide the value that we know we can provide, but that's only going to work if you're this ideal client of ours. And if you don't fit that mold, and we're gonna say no.
Exactly. And in the beginning, that's hard to do,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So yeah, that's really hard to do. Like I remember we would take on any deal. I remember I was the guy sometimes building the website from scratch for like $300, you know, and staying up all night, like, oh, I gotta do this. And so yeah, it changes. And then I think the other thing also is letting go.
yeah,
You think like I might think I'm the best sales guy for the company, but truth be told, I'm probably not as hungry as another salesperson might be. So it's just finding out those, picking your spots of like, you don't actually have to do everything. Find someone who's better than you and then help them do what they need to do, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. As a leader, it's your job to provide everybody the opportunity to succeed, and then make sure that you're giving them all the resources necessary to be successful, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, sometimes that's hard, right? You've created this company, it's your baby, and you're like, no, I'm going to hold on to everything. I don't want to let go. No, no, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And once you can make that mind shift change to say no, as a leader, it's not my job to do everything. It's my job to just make sure that everything's getting done.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a team, is to
Exactly.
have them help me along this journey, and to surround myself with people that can do those things that maybe I can't. Like you brought up the sales thought of, well, maybe they can do it better than me. Well, a lot of times as a small business owner, you're really passionate about what it is that you're doing. That's why you created the business. But that doesn't mean that you know everything there is to know about being a business owner and running a business and building teams. And so as a leader, I love this idea or this thought. I don't know who said it, but as a leader, you don't have to have all the right answers. You just have to be willing to listen to the right one when you hear it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing can be too sacred.
Yeah, yeah. No, love that. Fantastic. So, you jump ship. You'd worked with other agencies. You jump ship. Decided to open up your own. Walk us through what that looked like when obviously it was just you at the beginning, and
Yep.
then when did you decide I'm going to bring some people along this ride with me?
Great question. So I would, looking back on it, it makes a lot more sense because you can see it. But when you're doing it, when you're making that jump, it's all chaos.
Oh yeah,
You don't really know what you're doing. So a lot of things when people ask me, how did you go from 0 to 7 figures? Da da da. There must be some playbook, and I tell them like a lot of it's actually, to be frank, luck. And sometimes when you take those risks and you make that jump, you get opportunities that you probably wouldn't have gotten, but you have to take that step. So, like I said, in the beginning, it was just me. And at the time, I was still working odd jobs. I'd have one client and, trying to do the work, but then go to a day job. And it was probably maybe the fifth or sixth account that we had where I got lucky again. Part of my team, my CTO, I met him through a customer.
huh?
So the customer is like, "Hey, I have a great guy who built our website and did all our stuff. You guys work together to get this going, SEO and development." And 7 years later, that's my CTO.
There you go.
So luck. I actually like to chalk it up to luck, but I say that being in the right places makes you lucky. So you're not going to have any luck if you're just waiting around in the same place. But if you're everywhere you need to be and you're taking some risks, some calculated risks, you're going to get some lucky opportunities just by being out there. So luck is definitely what I'd say. But then 2019, probably 2 years after starting the business, is when it was like, okay, this might work. It was right before COVID, 2019. And actually, COVID was, I hate to say it, but good for us just because everyone was trying to become more e-commerce,
Right.
right? So there was a bit of a demand, and I would say somewhere in that realm of 2020. So a couple years into the business is really when it was like clear to me. Oh, we need social media. I can't do the social media. I need a person for that. And I made a lot of mistakes. I still make some mistakes on hiring. I think that's one of my weakest points because you believe in the good of everyone. You're very
Right.
optimistic, and sometimes people can use that a certain way, and sometimes it's totally my fault where different styles. I have like a freedom style. Like I feel like superstars, you have a superstar, you don't really micromanage them and tell them what to do. They tell you where they need help and then you just jump in. And that works for some people and some people don't work that well that way. They need a hand holder. And I'm not a great hand holder, but I'm getting better at it,
There
over
you
time.
go.
And so just seeing like personality types on the team, who needs what kind of leadership or what kind of guidance. And so I'm getting better at that now. I think now we have a core group of superstars. I would say 11 superstars, and some of them have their own teams and they have a lot of freedom. And it's really a self-starter mentality where I don't have to tell them get ABC task done. They reach out to me, ABC task is done. Here's D. We might work on something else. So I try to get people who are like me, who are self-starters, who don't need to be told what to do. They'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
There you go.
But still getting better. It's a work in progress.
Well, it always is, right? As a
Yeah.
small business owner, everything's a work in progress. You're constantly learning and adapting and changing based on the experiences that you're having, so that you can continue to be better and do better year after year. Because I love this quote. I forget who said it, but what got us here won't get us
Won't get
there,
us
right?
there. Yep, exactly.
Right. So
Exactly.
you put in all this work, you got to this point, and now you need to be intentional about, okay, now how do we get to the next step, right?
What I find is lately, especially, a lot of it's the opposite. When you get to this next level, so I'll give you an example. In the beginning, when you're starting up the business, you're working day and night. You might be sleeping in the office. You're working weekends. You're working chaotic. It's like more and more and more. And then you actually get to a certain point when you have team where it's actually like less. You need to set more boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have spaces where you can get like that mental rest so you can think more clearly on big things. um, and it's not about working as hard as you can work. It's about how efficient can you work, or what are the levers that you can pull. Can your team do the hard work that you're used to, but you can help guide them or finish the project. So I'm starting to learn that a lot of the things, it may have taken hard work to get to a certain milestone, and then to get to the next one you actually have to step out or step back rather than sleeping in the office.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's that intentionality of saying, okay, look, in order to continue to move forward, I have to be intentional about thinking strategically. I can't constantly be reactive. I have to
Exactly.
be proactive. And I can't do that if I'm spending 16, 18, 20, 24 hours in the office, right? I've got to step back. I've got to take some time. I've got to reflect
Yeah.
so that I can be intentional, and then I can make sure that I'm being as efficient as possible. A lot of times people think, well, if I just dive in head first and I just attack this problem, I'll figure it out. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but if you take a few steps back for a second, think it through, you can probably get it done and be a lot more efficient in it as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah, yeah. I would also say that, rest. So again, it's the opposite. In the beginning, you think, yeah, you got to go so hard, got to go so hard, but rest is actually part of the work itself as well. If you're, bogged down in 30 projects and day over day, you start to get in the weeds too much. You can't think clearly. So that decompression to give you a little bit of a buffer away from your work, your day to day, because let's be honest, when we go to bed at night, we're thinking of the same things. We're thinking of like the business, a little bit of paranoia. Oh, what if it doesn't work? We got to make it work. So those things are good, but you need healthy boundaries around it. Like I'm happy to say that, even though I do work some weekends, the weekends are family time, so it's like just that family time gives me the ability to think more clearly through the week of like, I don't feel so, caught up in it and overwhelmed. You feel like fresh and clear. And so I tell my team that, sometimes they get stressed out. There's a lot of deadlines, a lot of projects. And then I try to have them rest for 3 days after. Like, so there's ebbs and flows. There's times where you
Yeah.
go really hard, but you got to also decompress. And that's part of the work, so just
Yeah, no,
learning that stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And understanding that, hey, at first, like we already talked about, I'm holding on to everything, I'm doing everything, but the fact of the matter remains that if I continue to hold on to everything, I'm going to become this huge bottleneck for the
Exactly.
company, and we won't be able to continue to grow unless I get out of the way.
Exactly.
And so if you don't start to process that, and I agree with you, in the beginning, no, you're just trying to survive. So you're doing everything and anything that you can. But you need to get to a point where you start to say, okay, I need to start taking some of this off my plate. I need to start building my team. I need to trust them to do the work. And I have to have this mental mind shift where I say, you know what? I'm okay if they do it differently than me. And I'm okay if maybe they only do it maybe 80% of what I would have done.
Hmm.
Because that's how they're going to learn and they're going to grow. And then that's one less thing that I have to worry about, so I can continue working on the business, so I can keep building it and providing them opportunities. And that's okay. That's really hard to do.
letting
right?
go.
It's easy to talk about, but when
Yeah.
you're in that position, you're like, geez, that's hard. But you have to start working through that so that you can take the time necessary to, like you said, if you're not getting the rest you need, if you're just burning yourself out, then how are you going to be able to think strategically to say, okay, what strengths do we have that do we need to leverage, and what strengths do we need to start developing in order to go after and get this next thing accomplished? You can't do that if you're burned out and you're in the weeds all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a control thing as well. Like you mentioned, if someone does the work 80% as you would do it, or 90 or 70, I think the key point is letting someone else do it, almost letting go of control so that you can do the things that really matter. Maybe you don't have to know every little piece of minutia that's going on in your company. That's actually okay. I think it's Henry Ford, where he's on trial. They're asking him, how does an engine work? He's like, I don't need to know how an engine works. I have people that know how stuff works, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. So I find it great. Sometimes I joke with the team, like I'm the team idiot, because there might be 10 projects going on and I might not know, the nitty gritty of each project, but that's actually helpful because I can see things with a clear view. And then where I do need to help out, I'm just picking my spots, you know, rather than
Right.
knowing everything. And like you said, being a bottleneck. And I think I was a bottleneck in the beginning, but you have to. In the beginning, there is a phase where you're the bottleneck, and then you realize, like, oh, I'm the guy that they're waiting on to
Yeah.
approve this, to do that. I need to have someone else approve this, so
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
yeah,
Comes in stages. It's not
yeah,
something that happens overnight, and by design,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
at the beginning, that'd be way too much overhead to have all the people necessary to start shedding these things off your plate. You have to do a lot, and in a small business, you have to wear a lot of hats,
yeah,
and that's understandable, and that's part of the process. But it's understanding that you get to a certain point where it's okay. Now I have to start thinking strategically. How can I start taking these things off my plate? How can I start building this team? Um, and that's when you start to pick up that momentum and you start to see the growth that you're hoping for. Because man, when you get out of your own way, man, sky's the limit, right?
oh yeah. I would even add to that, and I think it's kind of a good segue, that getting around other people who are doing what you're doing. Like I love being here on this pod, and I know that your audience is full of entrepreneurs and founders who are all going through the same thing. Sometimes we don't even know what's good or right for us because we don't have another person that's comparable in our network. So
Right.
I'll give you an example. At like 10 or 20K a month, you might be making way more money than your family and friends, and you can't really compare to that same circle. They might even think you're crazy. They might, it's not the same mindset. And so for me, what really changed my look on things, I would say in 2021 or 2022, I started going to marketing conferences. And love them or hate them, like, conferences can be fun. They're all different. But what I number one take from it is the network. You usually meet people like you who are somewhere similar, and they always have some tidbit of advice that can help you immediately, and systems and processes, how to scale your team so that you have, a team member, but he has his own team. So you have pods. A lot of these things you can learn leadership, management styles. You can learn at conferences, because the other thing is we don't need to solve all the problems. Most of them have been solved by other people. And it's just about tapping into that person that's maybe a year or two ahead of you to tell you what you need.
Yeah, no, love that, and I hope those people who are listening in paid attention to that. There's no sense in trying to redevelop and reinvent the wheel day in
Yeah.
and day out, right?
Yeah.
There's an unlimited amount of resources out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's all about what you brought up earlier, getting yourself in the right place at the right time, putting yourself out there, building these relationships. That maybe you're not going to work with us, maybe you're not going to be our client, but I'm going to learn about you and your company. I'm going to learn about you because maybe five, six other people that I could work with, right? And
Right.
so it's setting up that foundation of, hey, I'm going to build this network of individuals that I know, and then I'm going to learn from them because why would I want to break my head against the rock trying to reinvent the wheel over and over again?
And it's always better to have, to be the dumbest person in the room, so to speak. So if I used to be a little bit, imposter syndrome and such when I would be around people who are really, really successful, But in fact, that's what you want to do. You want to be like the dumbest person in the room so that you're just soaking up all this information. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And I think there is a part when you're running your business where sometimes you grow out of your network and you're the smartest person in the room. Then you need to find a different room. So I think networking is huge for that. And also, like you mentioned, the abundance. Most people who have our mindset, we love to help. That's like our, one of our things that really gets us off is just helping other people become the best version of their self. And then we've all been through some part of the same journey. Even if you're a real estate broker, whatever your industry is,
Right.
it's the same mental journey to accomplish your goals.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, awesome. Sean, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us. Just been great conversation so far. We're going to switch gears just a little bit. As it pertains to you continuing to strive to be the leader that you want to be in your organization, as you had mentioned, as you're continuing to strive to be different than you were at the beginning, rather than being a founder, you want to be an executive, right? You're switching, changing, and as you're growing and developing this team of yours, what's something that you're dealing with real time that we can have a conversation about? Now, I know you did mention a little bit about your struggle of, sometimes it's hard to find the right people when we're hiring. But so I don't know if that's something you want to talk about, or if there's something else that you have in mind.
Yeah, that's definitely one. And I think on that note, not just finding the right people, even if you have the right person, um, you know, you may be busy, you may be dealing with high priority projects, but being available enough to what they need. So some people may need you 2 times a week, 3 times a week, every day. And some people may need you once every 2 weeks. And so just picking and choosing your spots. But then what I've had to learn is like, so something that switched is going from, in the beginning, it's all sales, it's all revenue. You need revenue to build the company.
Right.
And then at a certain point, it becomes your team is dealing with your revenue, your customers. So the team actually becomes like an extension of your right hand.
Yeah.
So what happens now is like, I would say I'd like to be 50-50 sales and team. Sometimes it's more like 30-70 sales and team, giving communication, guidance, coordination, just following along with projects. So something I have trouble with is just picking my spots on who needs help when and trying to be predictive almost. So if I haven't heard someone for a long enough time, it could mean that it's going well, but I still have to know to reach out like, hey, is there something I could help you with here? Or is
Right.
everything going well? And so just some of those without being annoying.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally get that. So here at Elite, we actually teach people, there's a what we call the elite business model that kind of helps set the foundation for how you do all this. So in the elite business model, at the top, so what it is this diagram of a mountain, and at the top of this mountain, you have this concept or idea of vision. So when we think of vision here at Elite, we think of it as threefold. You have your purpose, you have your values, and you have your mission. Now, purpose, that's your why. Why do I do what I do? Why do I get out of bed in the morning? Why do I come into the office, right? It's this 100-year out idea or concept of, hey, I'm going to constantly be striving for that, but I'm never going to actually succeed it. But it's something I'm going to work on and I'm going to serve day in and day out. And that's your purpose, right? Then your values, that's who you are and how you show up, right?
Right.
So that's the culture, right? Of that. And then your mission, that's this destination. That's where you say, hey, in the next 3, 4, or 5 years, and you get real clear and you set an actual day and time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go and I'm going to accomplish this thing. And your mission has to be directly in line with your purpose. And it's something you're actually going to accomplish. It's a destination you're going to reach. And that's your vision. Okay. Then down on one side of this mountain, that's your operational excellence. You've built this machine, you've created this business, and it's running, and you have to make sure it keeps running. You have to feed that machine because that's the life force of your company, right? You got to make sure that's running. Then down on this other side is this long-term strategic work that a lot of people either forget about or they don't intentionally give themselves time to work on because they're constantly getting sucked down into this daily operational stuff,
Yeah.
right? And so then a lot of people say, okay, so I have this vision, and then I know I have to do this operational, I have to do this strategic, but man, how do I do it all? Well, at the bottom of all this, we have this line that we call meeting rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
And the meeting rhythms are kind of what balance everything. It's where we say, okay, I'm going to intentionally set aside time for the operational stuff and for this long-term strategic planning, right? I'm going to be intentional about it. I'm not going to say, oh man, yeah, if I only had some time. If I got a penny for every time a business owner told me, man, if I only had time,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because it is, you're going to be busy. But the idea is you have to be intentional about saying no. What's most important? Now, I hate the idea or concept of having a meeting just to have a meeting.
Right.
So when we talk about meeting rhythms, we're saying no, these are intentional meetings where you have a pre-decided outcome determined. I'm going to have this meeting because I need to have this outcome, right?
Mm.
So it's saying, okay, half of my meetings are going to all be operational based, right? I'm going to have daily huddles just to make sure everybody's on the same page. I'm going to have weekly operational meetings so that we make sure, okay, what is it that we're working on this week so that we don't make sure that nothing falls through, right? And that we're all in line, right? Then we have these monthly operation meetings to make sure that, hey, we're seeing long term, we're looking at our goals, we're making sure that we're set up for success. And then the other side is we're intentionally setting aside time for these long term strategic needs. A place and time where we can think, hey, whom do we serve? Who is our ideal customer? What does that look like? What strengths do we have that we need to continue to leverage, and what strengths do we need to develop? Because again, we're thinking to ourselves, hey, what got us here isn't going to get us there. And if we want to reach this mission, we've got to think, okay, what do we need to do? How do we need to shift? What do we need to pivot? How do we need to approach this ideal customer that we want to market to make sure we're still staying relevant? And if we don't take the time to think through all these things, pretty soon we're going to be going down this path and we're going to realize that, hey, we should be over here. Well, we're still over here, but we need to be over here. What happened? It got away from us. Because if we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results,
Yep.
well, that's the definition of insanity, right? Right? We've got to take the time necessary to do that. So one thing that could kind of solve your problem where you're thinking, oh man, they're rock stars and I want them to do their thing. I don't want to manage them. I want them to do their own thing. But I still got to make sure that there's a place and time for us to communicate so that they know that I care about them, I hear them, and that I'm here to support them to make sure that they're successful. So one thing that we talk about here to Lead is this idea or concept of one-on-ones. Mm. Now, one-on-ones are a weekly 30-minute meeting. And we say, okay, if we're going to be realistic here, you shouldn't be doing more than about 5 or 6 one-on-ones every week. Okay. Because you do more than that, all you're going to be doing is one-on-ones. You don't have enough time to do that, right? But the idea is you choose, 5 or 6 key people in your company, maybe department heads, whatever it looks like for you. And you say, I'm going to meet with them and I'm going to meet with them for 30 minutes every single week. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to ever miss out an opportunity to do a one-on-one. And one-on-ones look like this. For the first 15 minutes, it's all about them. It's just building rapport. It's dreaming with them. How's your family doing? How's your personal life? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? Where do you see yourself in the next 3, 4, 5 years from now? Okay. All about them and their personal life, right? Then you switch gears and the last 15 minutes is all about how they're doing and performing at work. It's their opportunity to return and report to you how they're doing. So one thing that we talk about here is, and a lot of people use different terminology for them. KPIs is one, but we call them big threes. Mm-hmm. What are the 3 most critical things needed for the success of the role that you're currently occupying, right? And during that one-on-one, that's their opportunity to return and report to you how they're doing on their big threes. So now you have this accountability piece where you're holding them accountable to ensure that they're crushing their big threes on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? But they now have a time and place where they can come and report back to you. And ideally, this concept of one-on-ones is eventually this is owned by the employee. They're excited and engaged. They are holding you accountable. Hey, make sure you're at my one-on-one. This does so many different things. Number one, it creates a time and place that they know they're going to have your attention. So now during the day, they don't have to be reaching out to you and trying to interrupt whatever you're doing because they know, oh, well, hey, on Tuesday at 5, I'm going to have my one-on-one with them. So anything that's not critical emergency situation, I need the answer today, I'm going to write that down and I'm going to bring that to my one-on-one because I know that I'm going to have Sean's 100% undivided attention during our one-on-one for that 30 minutes. And so I'm going to bring this whole list of things to talk to him about. That frees you up because now you're not getting constantly interrupted. There's nothing worse than trying to focus on something and then getting interrupted every 2 minutes. Man, by the end of the day, you're like, I got zero accomplished.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had this whole list of things I was going to do. Nothing got done because I was constantly interrupted. Well, I'm glad that I was able to help them and they're being successful. Shoot, my day's shot.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that gets set a little bit so that doesn't happen as much because now they have this time and space set aside and designated for them to work with you. So creating those one-on-ones, defining those big threes. So big threes, it does a couple of things. Number one, it's this accountability piece so that you can carefully understand, hey, they're doing the work and they're getting it done, and I'm holding them accountable to that. But it also is super helpful for the employee because now the employee knows what it looks like to win on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more discouraging to showing up to work, having a pile of work in front of you, and you're working, and you're like, man, does what I'm doing even matter?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not even getting anywhere. Every single day, I just have this pile of stuff on my desk, but I'm not even actually achieving anything. So when we think through their big threes, we want to make sure that we're in being very clear with them of what it looks like to win and be successful in their role on a daily basis, and how what they do directly impacts our ability as a team to reach our mission.
Mm.
Because that's huge. This is this destination we're going to go after, and we're going to arrive there, and we need to do it as a team. And so by creating those big threes, you've now given them clarity and alignment, and throughout the whole company, you now have this clarity and alignment that, hey, every day, everything we do, we're going to serve our purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to continue to work closer to reaching our destination, this mission that we have in mind. And so that's how you can make sure that you're spending enough time with your employees, but you're not micromanaging them. You're
Right.
saying, hey, here's a time and space dedicated for the two of us to sit down and have a conversation. They're going to feel seen and heard because the first 15 minutes, it's all about them. Then in the last 15 minutes is the accountability piece. And they're going to be like, okay, this is where I know that I'm winning because now I get to come and report to them and be like, yeah, I killed it on this. I'm killing it on this. And also gives them the opportunity to say, you know what? I'm really struggling with this one piece.
Right.
How do you have any suggestions on how I can overcome this? I've thought through it, and it's a coaching opportunity for you because you can say, okay, well, what thoughts have you had about this? What do you think you can do about it? Right. And you can engage them and allow them to learn and grow through the process. But then you're letting them know that, hey, I'm here to provide resources, to provide whatever you need to be successful. I'm here for you. But you're required and responsible to your big threes. This is what you need to be doing. I'm here to support, but you need to be doing this work. And then it just is this awesome dynamic because now you have this solid clarity and alignment throughout the whole company. Everybody knows what it looks like to win on a daily basis. They can show up, they can be engaged, they can be excited. They have this mission that they're going to go after and reach, this purpose that they're serving. So now they're part of something bigger than themselves, and they're excited, they're engaged. That's how you're going to get this discretionary effort from your employees. It's no longer this clock in, clock out mentality. It's like, hey, I'm part of something awesome. We're going to go achieve this really cool thing together. I'm excited. I'm engaged. Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's no longer a drag. It's everybody's engaged. Everybody's focused. And then your job, Sean, is you're this gatekeeper.
Mm.
You don't let anybody into your organization that's, number one, not a core values fit.
Right.
And number two, that isn't in line with your purpose and superly excited about reaching this mission. If they're not engaged and like, oh yeah, that sounds awesome, I want to be part of that.
Right.
You don't want them in your team. So now you've got this next level filter for decision making throughout the whole company. Everything that anybody has to do decision wise, they ask themselves two questions. Does this serve our purpose? And is this going to help us get closer to our destination? Because if it is, awesome, full board, we're going to do this. If not, okay, well, now I'm going to intentionally say no. So like you said, you've already started in your company where you said, no, we know our ideal customer. We're only going to serve those types of customers because it's the best for us, right? We're excited to work with them. They're easy to work with, and we have a good profit margin, right? You've walked through all these things, right? So that you make sure that they're actually the ideal customer. So now you have this next level filter for that to ensure, hey, is this in line with our purpose, and are we going to reach this destination, our mission, as you're doing that. So that's one way to think through how you can make sure that you're still engaging with your employees, but not micromanaging them, because
Right.
you're setting this clarity and alignment throughout the whole company. Everybody knows what they need to do on a daily basis. They all know how it ties in together as a company so that the company's moving forward. And you have this sense of, this awesome culture, because hey, we're all core values driven. We all
Mm-hmm.
show up and act the same way because that's who we are and how we show up, right? Because we're centered in that, and we're super excited about this mission.
Yeah. All aligned to the mission. And I think, yeah, mission, purpose, and values. I think, yeah, that's something that's exactly where we are right now, honing those things out and basically making a dream big enough for everyone.
Yeah,
To your point about, dreaming with them in the first 15 minutes, ultimately, regardless of if you've accomplished your dreams, it's really about your team accomplishing all their dreams. And so if you need to make your dream a little bit bigger to fit their dreams, then that's what you need to do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a learning process.
It is, right? Like you said, being part of being a small business owner and an entrepreneur is understanding. You know what? You have this amazing opportunity to learn every
Yeah,
day.
lifelong learning is basically what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and I agree with your point there too about enthusiasm. So I've been trying to do a better job over the last year. I used to dread meetings, like most people, and what I started to realize, I had a little bit of a shift where I started to realize, like, actually, these people are like your right hand, your team, right? It's like they're an extension of you. So even if we have, an hour long meeting on different things that might get boring, it's my job to make it actually exciting, bring enthusiasm to it, try to be infectious, try to make it fun, tell jokes, make it a fun time. I've learned that, if you make things fun and play, it's much easier,
yeah,
to do the heavy lifting. So I'm trying to do that too. Even if we have a 4 hour meeting where I'm talking to 30 people in a room about almost like I'm a teacher, I still have to bring the energy, you
yeah.
know? Yeah. So, and I think it's like you said, infectious. It rubs off on your team. They see a template in you, like, okay, he's like that. It's infectious to everyone. They have that same, inspiration that they bring to the work.
Yep. And then as a leader, you really only have three jobs. So we think it through here to lead us. We have this elite leadership model, and we say, hey, look, as a leader, you set the vision, you
Hmm.
build the team, and you deliver results. That's
Hmm.
it. That's your job. Threefold. And at the center of all three of these is this idea and concept of care. You've got to care about the purpose, and you have to care about the individual. So whether that's the employee, that's the vendor, that's the customer, the client, whatever, you have to care about those two things, the purpose and the individual. And if you're using that idea of care, you're setting the vision, you're constantly talking about the purpose, you're talking about, hey, I saw this awesome example of Joey yesterday when he's working with this client. He showed this, core value. Way to go, man. That was awesome. And you showed how you live that value. And then, and look, guys, we're almost to our mission. Everybody, let's keep this momentum going. And then as soon as you reach that mission, you're celebrating huge,
Hmm.
man. You're bringing everybody together, you're having a party, and then the very next day, you're setting a new mission,
Yep.
right? And you're going
Yeah.
after it. And so you're setting this vision, right? And then you're building the team, meaning that you're making sure you're the gatekeeper and you're only allowing people in that are core values fits, right? You're making sure that they're in line with the purpose and they get excited about this mission, right? And then you're setting them up for success. You're giving them tools and resources necessary to be successful. And then delivering results. Too many business owners think, well, delivering results, that means I have to make sure everything. No, no, no. Delivering results means that you're providing your team the opportunity to do that. You're just
Mm.
ensuring that it's happening. That's your job. Your
Mm.
job isn't to do the work. Your job is to make sure the work's being done.
To provide the right environment and circumstances of the work. To do
Exactly.
that. Gotcha. That's
Yep.
great.
Yeah. So that's all you have to do as a leader. Just those three things: set the vision,
Simplify.
build the team. Yeah, build the
Yeah.
team, deliver those results.
Yeah.
And as you do that, and as you build your team, eventually you're going to start having these key leaders. You'll build a leadership team within your company, and their job is the exact same: set the vision, build the team, deliver results. And
Mm.
and each layer as you go down, deliver the results is going to look a little bit different, right?
Right.
right? For you as the owner, delivering results means that you're constantly working on this long-term strategic. You're building the company. You're looking for opportunities. You're doing all these things, right? You go down a layer, delivering results for them is a little bit different. It's ensuring that my team has what they need, that they're being able to be successful. I'm holding them accountable, right? So it changes and shifts a little bit in that area. What delivering results looks like just depends on what position you're actually in. But it just cascades down. And as you set this vision up top, it's contagious, and it just cascades down through everybody. And man, it's awesome. And the things that you can go out and accomplish when you have that unity, you have that culture, you have that clarity and alignment, man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, alignment is so key, purpose driven, and then it makes you want to come into work every Monday.
Yep.
The same way that founders and owners are, I feel like we have an enthusiasm for what we do, a passion for what we do, and you want that to spread through the company, So this has been great. Just, these takeaways, and also the simplification
Yep.
of, managing a team and just delivering results and how you do that, and having the vision keeps it much more simple than the 100 things you probably do.
Oh yeah. Because you're always going to have 100 things going on, right? That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's actually good. It's a blessing.
Yeah. Exactly. Good problem to have.
Exactly.
Well, Sean, thank you again so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's just been a fantastic show. Hey, for those of you who are listening in and like what Sean's doing there at Alchemy Leads and want to learn more, Sean, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and your company?
Yeah, definitely. Just going to our website, alchemyleads.com. That's alchemy, like, the magic. And yeah, go to our website. You'll see that we have a lot of happy customers that give us video reviews and talk very highly of us, and get in touch. We see if you're a good fit. And we really bring joy to the work that we do. So we try to keep it fun, and we love working with good people, good companies. So yeah, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help.
Awesome. And those of you listening in, if you heard something today, you're like, oh man, I need to do that. Take action. Don't just think about it, but actually put it into action, because it's not until we take those steps forward and we actually act on it that we're going to start to see the results that we want. And if you heard something today, you're like, you know what? I know somebody that could benefit from this. Please share this podcast with them. Let's create as much value and spread it as far as we can. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure being on the 7-Figure Journey podcast here. This concludes this episode. Until next time, everybody, take care.